Well, shit. Alright, we're out here working on the Genesis today. Finally got the wire harness off the 92, so we're going to start putting it on here today. Might be able to fire it today, I don't know. I know I don't have the fitting for the fuel line, but I did find one that actually converts it from the factory fitting that goes right here and adapts it to AN line so I can hook it up here. I still have to figure out like a return system, but I mean, once I convert it to AN line, then that should be fine. But there's the main harness there. I actually already put the transmission harness down in there. It's actually plugged in. This is the computer end of it here. I've got to figure out where I'm going to put the computer on it. It kind of fits down in there, but I don't know if any of the wires are going to fit over there or reach over there or not, so we'll just see. So the wire harness and all I'm using on this Genesis is actually the Holley Terminator X Max for the automatic transmission. If you have either a manual transmission or you're not using a electronic automatic, like if you're using like a turbo 400 or turbo 350 or even like a 700 R4, anything that's not electronic, you can get just the Terminator X and it saves you a little bit of money. I'm using the 4L80 in this setup, so I'm using the Terminator X Max, which I've used this setup. I actually have two different versions. I have it for the Gen 3 and then I have one for the Gen 4 LS engines. So I've used it on the first one I done was on the 92. I bought actually this setup here that we're using on the Genesis. I bought it when I still had my second gen Camaro. It worked great on both of those. I had a stock 5.3 in the 92 at the time, it was Gen 3, and I had a 6.0 in the second gen Camaro with that was a Gen 4. Used both of those for a while, and those two respectively. Really easy to get started, really easy to tune on. You can actually go in and do more advanced stuff with nitrous, boost, all that. It's a little bit more involved when you go to start doing that, but Holley really has it laid out pretty easy. I'm hoping that I can also run the Genesis AC on here. I was able to make it work on the 92. I had AC and all in it, but I'm not sure how this AC system works on here, so I'm going to look into it, try to see what I can get figured out. If I can't, then it's not the end of the world, but it would be awesome to have AC in this car. Then this car would be a true street car / sleeper, and that's what I want. I want something I can get in and drive and be comfortable driving, and if somebody wants to talk shit, line up and go. Not that I think it's going to be the fastest thing in the world, because I know it's not. There's a lot faster cars out here, even Genesis. There's a lot faster Genesis that people have done. There's a lot of people that do these with 2Js, swaps, and other LS combos and all. You know, mine's going to be an automatic. Most of these cars are manuals, and I wish this one would have been a manual car, but with it being an automatic car, it's just easier for me, especially since I have an automatic already, to just throw it in here and try to make it work. So we'll see how it goes. The good thing, I say good thing, something I'm interested to try to find out if I can make it work, is that because this is a automatic car, it's got the paddle shifters on it. So this plug here, if I remember right, this one should be the main plug going to the transmission. Then you got the neutral safety switch right here, which I still got to figure that out because it won't spin over unless it's in park and neutral, of course. So I got to figure out how to make that work because I actually want it to show, at least in drive. I don't care if it shows 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, but at least shows drive, neutral, reverse, and park when I have it switched. So I don't know how I'm going to make that work yet. We'll figure it out. But if I can make that work, make the paddle shifters work, and still be able to use the factory automatic shifter in here and all, that would be awesome because it all looks factory. And that's my goal in this car. This project is to try to make it, when it's all shut up, is make it look as factory as possible. You know, with the hood closed, stock hood. I don't want to put no big hole in the hood or nothing like that. I don't want to have to put, if I have to, I will, because I mean, I'm going to make the car where I can drive it, but I would like to keep the stock shifter and all. If I can't make the paddle shifters work, it's not the end of the world. It's just something I would like to do. I think it would make it fun to drive for sure. But we'll see. I still haven't figured out how I'm going to do the drive shaft yet. Actually, I do have the, like I said earlier, I do have the main transmission harness plugged in, the output speed sensor, and then these 4L80s have got an input speed sensor, or the turbine speed sensor, whatever you want to call it. This piece of plate and the board is not permanent. This is mainly just to get the transmission where I wanted it and get it mocked up so I can try to figure out a drive shaft. The fun part with the drive shaft is this pinion flange is 3-bolt, and I haven't found any kind of adapter flange or anything to go from that. I found a few, but they're not the right size. The bolt circle is different, or bolt pattern is different, and I can't find any. But I've reached out and haven't heard anything yet. I may hear back later on if anybody can make this for me. I'm sure they can. I just don't want to spend $1,000 on just a piece of chunk of aluminum. But I mean, I got to do something, or I'll won't even be able to drive it. So definitely don't want that. I have a friend of mine that actually has a 3D printer. What I'm going to try to do is give him the measurements on 3-bolt to the 4-bolt and see if he can actually print a mock-up adapter. If I can get him to do that, I can actually piece together a drive shaft to mock up, make sure my length's right and all that, and then I can take it to a drive shaft shop and say, here, this is what I need. I already know it works. I've already mocked it up. I just need you to actually build it and balance it, and then I can stick it in, bolt it in, and be good to go. So that's where I'm at up under here. Like I said, that transmission is in there, but it is tight. I did have to cut, if you look right here, this is the original mount for the transmission crossmember that was in the car. That one was fine. This one over here, I had to cut all this out right here. I haven't smoothed it up yet. I'm going to take a hammer and kind of fold those edges down so I don't cut my fingers or hands or anything. But I had to cut it out to be able to get this transmission plug in, because it comes out to the side on the 4L80. If it was a 4L60, it probably would have been fine. It would have been a little harder to plug it in because they actually come from the top, but it probably, the transmission tunnel wouldn't have been in the way. So I still got to figure out about the shift linkage. I'm going to try to use this factory cable, which I don't think that's going to be that big of a deal. I just have to get a flange or mount that goes right here and then just hook the cable to it. So that's, I don't think that's going to be that bad. Other than that, the only other thing that's really waiting on the transmission is I've got to figure out a dipstick tube. The one I was using with this motor and transmission, I don't think it's going to work. Probably just going to get a universal flex one. And then I want that. I mean, that's not that big of a deal. I don't think that's going to be that bad. It's not crazy tight up through there as far as just using a universal one. But do that, bolt the torque converter back up, and put fluid in it, and the transmission will be done. I have to actually build a cross member because that's, for one, way too heavy, and two, I don't like the way it is. But we'll get it figured out eventually. Like I said, it was just mainly just to get it mocked up so I could get the drive shaft figured out and make sure I had room for everything else as well. So we'll see. Alright, I think we got, well, I got some fuel lines. This is not the fuel line, that's the brake booster line. But I made a line. It doesn't leak, not right now anyway. That goes from the factory fuel fitting there to the AN, and then on the other side I just made me a little line to pretty much kink it off. I don't know how well it's going to work. I'm not going to keep it that way. I'm going to actually get the correct fittings and all that I need. This is just, I really want to hear it run in the car, so that's what I'm about to try to do. I'm not sure how this is going to go because you have to hold the brake, hit the push button, start. It'll spin over. When it actually goes to crank, I have to manually hit the button again to turn all the power off, then hit it again to keep the power on. Don't know. We'll see. Luckily, all of the engine, computer and all is separate from the actual car, so that's not that big of a deal. So that hopefully will mean that the engine will stay running even when I cut power to the rest of the car. We'll see. So let's see what happens. So, didn't get anything, didn't even hit. It might be that the throttle blades are closed too much, so I'm going to try to adjust that. So that battery just ain't any good. So I guess I'm gonna have to go get another battery to put on there. Alright, so attempt number 2. I know it's gonna have a vacuum leak. I don't have the map sensor hooked up for the Holly. So that may be why it's not wanting to crank now. I don't know. But I know it's gonna at least rev up because I tightened the idle stop screw all the way down to open the blades up because I don't have a throttle cable hooked up yet. So if it'll at least fire, we'll see what it does. So, I know why it won't crank. I didn't hook the crank sensor up, so I want to get up under there and try to get that hooked up now. Alright, so now the crank sensor's hooked up. Actually, we're just gonna do a TPS auto set because I've been messing with it and I don't have a throttle cable, so we are going to just, well, shit. Try this again. Jump, 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 jump. Maybe it didn't mess it up. Alrighty. Let's see then. So I'm gonna say let's try it. See what happens. Maybe we'll get a little bit of fire this time. Good God, it sounds amazing. Mm. Hey, let's just cancel that real quick. Yeah. Well, that was a successful test fire of the 408 in the Genesis. So, now that I know I can make it run, we got a lot of shit left to do. So, future reference, make sure that drain plug is tight before you put the oil in it, because it will leak all of it out.